Greetings, creeps! Welcome back to Hallowscream, radio for haunters, Halloween junkies, and the members of the UK Halloween prop-making Facebook group. We have something to lighten the mood this week, kiddies, with haunt tips on lighting, a look at some examples of great lighting on haunting inspirations, and lighting tutorials in terrifying tutorials. We've got another couple of spooky flicks for you in the Wretched review, and something ghostly in props for props. I ask you, my putrid patrons, how are we already halfway through October? I don't know about you, but I'm at that point now where I'm starting to panic just a little that I won't be ready. I think we all get that a bit though, and we've only 2 or 3 weeks to finish those projects, so get to work. Just a suggestion, but maybe you could listen to your favourite Halloween podcast while you finish your projects. And then, if you've got some time after, maybe you could fit this podcast in too. It was only a couple of weeks ago that I was saying don't panic, and I kinda still stand by that. Just take a deep breath, stay calm, and let's do what we do best. Create an awesome Halloween. But for now, let's try to help you do just that, with some haunting inspirations.
Haunting inspirations.
Welcome back to Haunting Inspirations, boils and ghouls. We've got a trio of haunted cemetery home haunts that are about to infect your brains with ideas and inspirations for your own haunts. We start this week with an awakening, Canberra Crypt 2020, The Awakening to be precise. Canberra Crypt is the home haunt from the twisted mind of our very own James McClarty, and you need look no further than this for a fantastic look at how to turn your own front garden into a terrifying graveyard scene, complete with its own story of witchcraft and monsters. Jimmy has done a really good job of filling a decent sized space with a ton of props, many of which are his own creation or modified shop-bought items. James does a great job with lighting too, something we'll be talking about in Haunt Tips. Fantastic work, Jimmy. I'm excited to see what you have for us this year. Next up, we have the awesome Grimwood Hollow Yard Haunt, with a 2019 video from their own channel. We get a great daytime and twilight look at the display, with a ton of awesome homemade props. Grimwood Hollow is another one with fantastic lighting along with their homemade props. I'm particularly fond of their pumpkin imps that are spread around the haunt. I think they look really cool. The video is 15 minutes long, but definitely worth a watch. There is a great amount of inspiration to be had. And lastly for this week's inspirations, we have Thornhill Woods Yard Haunt display, as part of Thornhill Woods Haunted House. A little similar to the last couple, but we again have a fantastic example of good lighting in DIY props. This video is just shy of 5 minutes long, and has a lot of gruesome looking zombie props that make me think back to the great horror classics like Night of the Living Dead, both the black and white original and the great Tom Savini remake. So again, be sure to give this one a watch. In fact, be sure to give them all a watch, and fill your mind with haunting inspirations.
Haunt tips.
This week on Haunt Tips, we'll be taking a look at a few different types of lights and where to get them from. There are a few different types of lighting that work really well for home haunts. Firstly, there is LED spotlights. Usually you can pick coloured lights up for a decent amount of money. There are a load of different LED spotlights out there, and you can pick them up in a lot of places. DIY stores like B&Q, Homebase, etc. will have them in some form, as will shops like Wilko, B&M, etc. Or you can pick them up online. eBay has a ton at a good price, though when buying from eBay, they usually don't include a plug, so take extra care as you will need to do a bit of wiring. Maybe you want to create a look of glowing or burning light coming from inside your house, or you want to light a walkway. A really good way to do this is LED strip lighting. These are long strips of LED lights that you can use as a border around something, just stick along a wall to light the way, or use for a good variety of things. Cover a window with a sheet and hang a strip of these around the window to get a really nice glowing effect. Make it orange if you're after a burning fire look. LED tea lights are those small cheapy little plastic candles, and you can find them pretty much anywhere that's selling Halloween stuff. I'm not saying light your haunt with them, it's never going to happen. But they are a good decoration for a cemetery, for example. I usually have a few of them in front of some of my tombstones, that kind of thing. And you'll see later in terrifying tutorials how you can combine these with an orange spotlight to make a really cool lighting effect. LED floodlights are pretty similar to what we saw at the beginning with the spotlights, but where the spotlight is a strong light on just one area, a floodlight will fill a large space. In the home haunt, use is pretty much the same with the two. Blue floodlights in particular always look really good for a cemetery, or another example, green will look really good for lighting a swamp. Again, much like the spotlights, you can pick these up at DIY stores, cheaper stores like B&M, or online. Another thing that is also similar as the spotlights, you tend to find some great cheaper LED floodlights on eBay, but most of the time these will need wiring to a plug. So again, make sure you know what you're doing before you purchase these. Laser lights are a really interesting one and can look awesome as part of the home haunt, particularly as part of a swamp scene or when being used to make a vortex. There's a ton of great tutorials out there, but when combined with smoke from a smoke machine, a laser can be made to look like a glowing, eerie swamp. Again, there's a ton of awesome tutorials for this as well, but lasers on a spinning mirror creates a vortex effect, and it looks like some kind of portal to the spirit world. It's one that's definitely on my to-do list, and has been for quite a long time. You'll find small laser lights on eBay or other online sources, but please take extra care when working with laser lights. They could be really dangerous, so please don't mess about with them unless you do know what you're doing. Strobe lights are what you want if you want to create a storm effect or have some flashing lights, and you can get some really cool ones. Some stores have started selling blue or white strobe lights as thunder strobes as part of their Halloween ranges. These ones are made to mimic a heavy thunderstorm, and some even have sound effects. If you just want normal strobe lights though, then you can find these very easily online. Some party shops sell them. A Google or eBay search will give you everything you need. Lastly on my list for today is projector lights. You'll find a lot of different projector lights from places that sell Halloween goods, both in stores and online. Some of these will be really simple and just be a cartoon ghost shape or something like that. Others will project a full-on coloured picture, possibly even with a little bit of movement. B&M had a popular one that projects a ghostly woman in a blue light. I'm not sure if they still sell this, as unfortunately my local store has really cut back their range this year. But I own one, and it's always worked really well. I should add that I'm not talking about proper projectors that will play like a show, that kind of thing. I am talking about a light that literally projects just the one normally still image. And that's all we have for this week, so join us next week for more haunt tips. Hey guys, just a little edited in bit here. I really struggled with this one. Firstly, I don't have a clue on lighting, and I just haven't had time to do the proper research, so I'm sorry if this week's haunt tips was a bit crap. The next couple of shows will do a much better job with their segments, so please do come back, and sorry again for what I feel is a subpar segment.
Wretched with you.
Hello there, boils and ghouls. I see you've returned to my amphitheatre for some Wretched reviews. As we're all about building our own props and are often inspired by the horror movies we enjoy, I thought we'd take a look at great fan-made movies, and boy have I got some killer films for you today, Haunt Fiends. First up, we have Never Hike Alone, The Ghost Cut.
I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason.
This full-length 1 hour and 22-minute film is actually a trio of Friday the 13th fan movies by Womp Stomp Films, all cut together in one cohesive timeline. This includes their 5-minute film Disappear, short film Never Hike in the Snow, and the 50-minute Never Hike Alone. The Ghost Cut is a great addition to the Friday the 13th lore. They all have fantastic production value, and the kills we do get don't disappoint. The Never Hike Alone segment of the film is a really unique touch on the Friday the 13th franchise. It's not another group of rowdy teens looking to get high, get laid, and get killed doing it. This is just the one guy that happens to hike in the wrong place. It's a really different take, and I'm a big fan of that. Spoilers ahead as we delve into each story part by part. The 5-minute Disappear section is set around 3 young people that decide to visit Camp Crystal Lake. A frisbee game is being played in the infamous lake by a guy and a girl until Jason arrives. Jamming a sickle into the back of the young man, he then proceeds to drown the girl. But as he's doing so, the third friend arrives carrying 3 cans of beer. He sees what's happening, drops those cans, and tries to make a run for it. But while drowning the girl with one hand, Jason wrenches the sickle from the already dead male and hurls it into the back of the other as he runs, in what works out as a really gnarly kill. Jason then drags the bodies back to his cabin in the camp and presents the bodies to his mother, who is still there as the severed head on a shrine that's become a famous part of the franchise. There, Jason sits, awaiting his next victims. And then we get into Never Hike in the Snow. 13 years later, we meet Mark as he's running through a snowy forest. We can't see what he's running from until he stops. Unsure of where he is, he gets out his car keys and presses the little alarm button on them to listen to the direction of his car. But that's when Jason appears, eventually catching up to Mark with an axe that he swiftly swings into Mark's screaming mouth. We get to see Mark with the axe embedded in his face and get a look at some really fun prosthetics, which really harkens back to the over-the-top kills of 80s slasher movies. Eventually, the police are alerted to Mark's car, and while trying to figure out what's been going on, the local sheriff tries to hide the fact that Jason has returned and leaves a deputy to clean up the mess. Another man is watching from behind a tree and steals the deputy's shotgun from his car while his back is turned. The sheriff, Rick Cologne, played by Vinny Guastafaro, returning to the role from Friday the 13th Part 4, and his deputy apprehend Tommy at the entrance to Camp Crystal Lake, where the sheriff has Tommy arrested, but Tommy warns that Jason is back and that the sheriff is too, and I quote, chicken shit to do anything about it. The sheriff calls it all a bunch of local horse shit and again leaves the deputy to clean the mess. But the deputy then does something he doesn't get to live to regret, and he decides to check out Camp Crystal Lake before leaving. We then get some really cool shots that are from the deputy's body cam footage, including his inevitable meeting with Jason. Never Hike in the Snow ends with Sheriff Cologne giving a press conference claiming Mark and the sheriff's deputy to be missing, continuing to ignore Jason's return. We then cut to 3 months later, at the beginning of Never Hike Alone. YouTuber and streamer Kyle MacLeod, who is on a hike that takes him from the forest where he leaves his Jeep to a hike around a large lake and then connects with another trail that will bring him back, but only when he makes it to the lake do we discover that he is in fact at Crystal Lake, and it isn't long before Kyle stumbles upon the camp. He sets up camp in one of the buildings and then remembers stories of the camp that were once told to him by his older brother. Kyle decides to explore the camp, which is where he finally runs into Jason. He escapes, but has to return to camp as he won't survive without the gear that was left behind in the cabin that he had set up camp. He makes it back and manages to dodge Jason enough to patch up a couple of wounds and quickly packs his gear away. Jason catches up to him though, as he's about to leave again, but this time Kyle decides to take Jason on with a camping shovel that doubles as a pickaxe. A big fight ensues, but Kyle manages to escape, eventually wandering off into the forest. It's now morning and Kyle is wandering to the edge of a cliff. Jason turns up, they fight again, and it ends with Kyle having his head crushed by Jason. Kyle then wakes up, he's in an ambulance, but he continues to see visions of Jason. 2 paramedics manage to help Kyle back around, and we see a return from Tommy, who's now driving the ambulance. Jason catches up with Kyle, dispatching the 2 paramedics, but Tommy manages to get him and Kyle out of there. Never Hike Alone, the Ghost Cut ends with some awesome comic book style artwork of Tommy revealing that Womp Stomp Films is working on another Friday the 13th movie, Never Hike Again, that was supposed to be released this year, though there isn't that many updates, so I'm going to take a guess that COVID-19 has really slowed the production down on this one. It does look phenomenal, however. Never Hike Alone, the Ghost Cut is an awesome addition to Friday the 13th, and it's certainly part of my headcanon at this point. Womp Stomp Films has done a great job at bringing back franchise hero Tommy, while also creating a new one in Kyle. They've certainly done a better job than Hollywood has with this franchise lately, and I honestly think that they deserve the rights at this point. The Ghost Cut is getting a really strong 4.5 out of 5 from me. Next up, we have Halloween Night.
This is so stupid. I'll never understand why people like this movie.
So, when are those kids getting back?
I don't know.
It is Halloween, you know.
All our times have come. Here, but now they're gone.
Kinda quiet, man. Not one of those freaks, are you?
Trevor, get out of Aiden's room. You know you're not supposed to be in here.
It's Halloween in Haddonfield, Illinois. The infamous Halloween night of 1978 is all but a memory for the people of Haddonfield, and the new generation of townspeople look to put the town's marred legacy behind them. But death has returned to their little town. Halloween Night is a 60-minute fan-made film from Thunderknock Productions. We follow several of the residents of Haddonfield as they either die at the hands of the Shape himself, Michael Myers, or narrowly avoid him without even realizing it. Until we get to the film's main characters, John and Samantha Loomis, son and daughter-in-law of the psychiatric doctor of the original Halloween stories. In Halloween Night, Dr. Loomis has passed away since the original 1978 movie, changing more recent stories a little bit, so you do have to forget the last couple of movies. The movie starts following some trick-or-treaters who do eventually quite literally bump into Michael. Luckily, Michael seems to leave the children alone though, and they continue on their merry way. Michael does follow them for a little bit, killing people in the houses they visit before he ventures off on his own path. Eventually, bodies of a babysitter and her boyfriend are found by the father of some trick-or-treaters, and the authorities are made aware. We discover through a colleague of John's that there has been an accident involving a prisoner transport, which we assume is the explanation for Michael's sudden appearance, and a radio news show quickly reports that a murderer is loose in Haddonfield. Michael eventually ends up at the home of the Loomises and attacks Samantha while John is on his way home from work. John busts down his own front door to try and save his wife, who has somehow escaped Michael's clutches. Samantha heads upstairs while John attempts to fight Michael, but Michael gets John by the throat, and just as he's about to make the kill, Samantha calls Michael by name. For some reason this makes him drop the now unconscious John and go for Samantha, who flees to her bedroom. Michael catches up to her though, and just as he's about to go for the killing blow, John shoots him 5 times in the back. Michael falls onto a balcony and the couple embrace, but Michael gets back up. Samantha grabs the revolver again and puts another 5 shots into Michael, who this time falls from the balcony onto the concrete below, and the couple leaves the house and the film ends, not really tying anything up. This one is okay, some decent enough acting, and Michael is played very well by John Schilling. It doesn't blend into the story of the franchise as well as the previous Friday the 13th entries do, but it works fine as a standalone. The kills are all a bit samey, Michael swinging a big blow with a large knife, but that's kind of his thing. The scenes where Michael is interacting or following some of the young trick-or-treaters is tense. It does make you worry for the kids, but otherwise I didn't find it pulling me in too much. If it had a little more runtime that was dedicated to making you care about the characters more, I think it could have been better, but what we do get leaves me a little underwhelmed. I didn't care for the characters enough to feel the suspense that you might feel in the original John Carpenter classic. Overall, Halloween Night is a very good fan film. They managed to make very little budget work, and it definitely doesn't have the look of a low budget movie, but I just didn't find it that compelling, and by the end I was a little bored. So I'm going to give Halloween Night a 2.5 out of 5. I really wanted to rate it higher, especially as it's a fan-made project, but I just didn't care enough about the characters or really the story to warrant it. And that brings us to the end of our dive into some monstrous movies for this week, Haunters. Join us next week when we take a look at the original 1978 classic Halloween on the Wretched review. Props for props. Welcome once again to Props for Props, where this week we have a family of spooky things keeping us wired to the show. We have Steve Richardson's chicken wire ghosts. Steve started with making the form of a ghostly woman back at the beginning of September, and only a little over a week later he had a mother and daughter ghost and had painted them with 2 layers of white spray paint. The wireframe ghosts were then attached to wooden boards and have since been mounted on top of Steve's garage. He commented that his neighbours don't seem to mind, as he lives next to a cemetery. Great for inspiration, and if he gets low on funds, great for supplies too. I've had a roll of chicken wire in my shed for the last 18 months, and I've been toying with the idea of chicken wire ghosts. Seeing Steve's posts keep leaving me with a feeling of temptation, but I've told myself I need to finish everything else before I even think of starting a new project. At the beginning of October, Steve uploaded pictures of the ghosts now atop his garage, but when he uploaded the pictures, it appears that the family had gained another member. A little chicken wire ghost sausage dog had joined the mother and daughter atop the garage. A really fun little touch that adds a little life into Steve's undead. Great work, Steve. You've done a really good job, and I hope we get to see some pictures of your chicken wire trio come Halloween. A shorter one to give props to this week, kiddies, but I love these kind of builds. Join us again next week when we'll raise another of our group members from the grave as we give props for props.
Terrifying tutorials.
It's that time again. This week we have a list that will hopefully brighten up your Halloween, as we have 5 lighting tutorials for you. A couple of this week's terrifying tutorials are guides on how to best light your haunt, while others are guides that include some DIY electrical work. I've forgotten to say this in previous episodes, but when you do go and check out these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe to support these great spooky channels. First up, we have Haunt Lighting 101 from Van Oaks Props. This is a fantastic 5-minute video that gives you the basics on how to best light your haunt. Van Oaks Props does a really good job in teaching us how to light our haunts, while also showing us the lights he recommends and the best way to use them. We also get a really great suggestion on how to light tombstones in a way that makes them look like they're lit by candlelight. I really can't suggest checking this one out enough. I didn't know about the candlelight trick that Van Oaks Props shows us, and will definitely be trying to incorporate that into my haunt this year. Next up we have another awesome tutorial, this time from Menace Productions, who has produced a 15-minute video on lighting. This video is broken into 3 sections: DJ style lighting, haunted attraction style lighting, and general style lighting. Menace Productions goes through each section, looking at how it looks and the pros and cons of each lighting style. If you want to get a little more in depth with your lighting, this is definitely worth a watch. Now we return to Van Oaks Props for a video tutorial on how to build your own great little Halloween lights. It's very basic, but if you're like me and have no idea when it comes to wiring anything, then this is a really good tutorial to get you started on electronics. I'm going to try this one out next year, so if you're not sure and have the patience, ask me how I got on this time next year, and if I'm not in some kind of hospital burns unit, you know I probably did okay. The next video is from Jacula's Castle, and is a look at some app-controlled floodlights. You get some tips on hiding the lights, a little guide on how the app works, and a look at how they light up Jacula's haunt at night. It's a nice easy 3.5-minute video that's definitely worth a look if you want these kind of lights in your haunt. Lastly on today's list, we have a video from Deadwood Manor, where we get a tour of their light setup. Owner Anthony tells us of his experience in lighting for movies and other productions, while explaining why he chose to light things in certain colours, and gives us a few tips on lighting along the way. This is a good little video that I actually used myself when I first started home haunting a few years ago, so go and check it out. And that's it for this week. So, like I said at the start, don't forget to go and check these videos out and like and subscribe to their channels. If they're on this list, then it's because I think they can benefit you, my putrid patrons. So it's at least worth subscribing, is it not? Join us again on next week's episode, where we'll be checking out tutorials that are a bit alien to us all on terrifying tutorials. And just like that, we've finished another week of Hallowscream. Could we do something to slow down time, please? This is kind of insane. We're 4 episodes down in what feels like minutes. As I tell you every time, listeners, Hallowscream is looking to improve, so please leave any comments, suggestions, or whatever else you may have in the comments, or get in touch on the UK Halloween prop making group if you're a member. I'm also going to throw it out there again that if anyone is interested in hosting a segment, please get in touch. I want the show to keep growing, and next year I want to make it bigger, better, and longer, something my wife is always asking for. So, if you think you'd like to host a segment, then reach out and let me know. It would be great to have some extra hands aboard the good ship Hallowscream. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then please rate the show, hit that like button, subscribe, or whatever else it is you can do on the platform of your choice. I'm off to try and get some more props done, as long as the weather holds off. So, until next time, my fiendish friends, stay scary.